When shooting landscapes or seascapes, most photographers will choose to shoot in low light conditions at either end of the day, but sometimes that just isn't possible. So how can you shoot long exposures in broad daylight? In this film, I'll show you the ropes on how and when to use the 15-stop Super Stopper from Lee Filters. I'm here in Western France, shooting these very beautiful fishing huts in front of me. I've come down here on a very, very bright day. It's the middle of the afternoon, it's very bright, it's very hot, but nonetheless there's some beautiful light happening on the water here, and I'm very tempted to take a picture. The trouble is I'd like to do it long exposure, but I know that I've just taken an exposure now without a filter, and it's giving me about 500th of a second at f11. F11 is an aperture I use an awful lot for this sort of thing. I just find you get the sharpest results at that aperture. Now 500th of a second with a big stopper, a 10-stop filter, will give me about 2 seconds. Not really enough for what I want to achieve. So what I'm going to use is the Super Stopper, the 15-stop filter from Lee. That should give me a little bit longer. Let's have a look. So I'm going to use the app that Lee Filters have supplied, which will give me an idea of the shutter speed I should use. I just input the 500th of a second, and that's telling me with the Super Stopper that it's going to be 1 minute exposure, which is perfect. So let's do that. First of all, I'm going to set the shutter speed to bulb. Now if you're a Nikon user like me, you'll know it's on the same little wheel as the shutter speed. The next thing one must do is to make sure your focus is set to manual. Otherwise, once the glass goes in, the camera and lens will be searching to focus. They won't see anything. The glass is so black that they won't see a thing. And then the next thing you should do is cover up your eye hole here, your eyepiece, just to make sure no excess light gets in through the back of the camera. Then on goes the filter already in the holder. And the last thing I'm going to do before I take the picture is just to put, there's no wind today, so I'm going to put a cloth just across the top of the filter holder. If you can't do this, if it's a bit too windy, just put your hand over on a very, very bright day like this. It'll just stop any problems. So I think we're pretty much ready to go. Let's take the picture and see what happens. And there it is, a quick look at the histogram. It seems 1 minute's absolutely perfect. The histogram's looking good. Happy with that. I've moved around the coast a little bit from the last hut, and I found this little tiny hut all by itself. I've got some weed in front of it here, which I'm going to shoot. I found a little composition where I shoot above the weed, nice big sky, bottom right-hand corner with a hut, really minimalist, very, very simple composition. Now the shutter speed I'm getting without a filter is 250th of a second, which gives me, with a big stopper, so 10-stop filter, that gives me 4 seconds. With a Super Stopper, the 15 stops, that gives me 2 minutes, which is exactly what I want. It'll really make the water go beautifully flat. And maybe a little bit of movement in the net at the end of the hut, which is exactly what I'm after. Now you may wonder why one can't just use two filters, a little stopper and a big stopper, to give you 16 stops, so 10 plus 6 stops. And the reason I prefer to use the Super Stopper is, firstly, I like to keep things simple, so just one filter in there is great. It also gives you the option of having another availability for a grad filter, which is great. And of course, the light coming through here can be quite disruptive, vignetting, all that sort of thing. So really keeping things simple, one filter does the job. So here's the Super Stopper. Looks exactly like the other two in the series, the big and little stoppers. The spongy bits which have to go up close to, that's not a technical term by the way, the spongy bits that go up close to the camera. Cut out all the light. Make sure that your lens, if you're using a zoom, is on autofocus, is on manual. Shutter speed to bulb, and then close up the back of the camera. Now once again, just because it's very, very bright out here, just to make sure that there's no seepage of light coming through. It's unlikely, but it's just a precaution. I'm going to put my hand over the lens here, just to cover that gap where the lens holder hits the camera. And off we go. the histogram. Excellent, all good. It's worth remembering that this filter is designed to enable long exposure times in the brightest conditions, giving much greater flexibility to any landscape photographer. A very useful addition to your camera bag.